Welcome to Epic Quotes, where we explore the lives of influential figures and uncover the timeless wisdom they left behind. Today we embark on an inspiring journey through the life of one of the world's most iconic leaders, Nelson Mandela. His story is one of resilience, hope, and sacrifice, showing us what it means to fight for justice, equality, and freedom in the face of overwhelming adversity. From his humble beginnings in rural South Africa to his powerful role as the first black president, Mandela's life offers valuable lessons that can inspire us all. So sit back, relax, and join us as we explore the incredible journey of Nelson Mandela and the lessons we can learn from his legacy. Nelson Mandela was born on July 18, 1918 in the village of Muzevo located in the Eastern Cape province of South Africa. His father was a respected local chief, and Mandela's family had royal connections within the Thembu tribe. Yet, despite these noble ties, Mandela's childhood was not one of luxury or privilege. His father passed away when Mandela was just 9 years old, and he was sent to live with his mother in the rural village of Kunu. It was there, surrounded by nature and traditional life, that Mandela began to form his values of leadership, respect, and community. Mandela's early education was somewhat limited by the racial inequalities of the time, but it was during this time that he was given the name Nelson by his teacher, a name that would later become synonymous with freedom and justice across the globe. He attended local schools, and although his opportunities were constrained, his thirst for knowledge and education never waned. Mandela's journey to the larger world started when he moved to the town of Alice to attend the University of Fort Hare. There he began to grasp the full scope of the racial injustice that underpinned South Africa's apartheid system. His time at Fort Hare was short-lived, however, as he was expelled for participating in a protest against the university's administration. Despite this setback, Mandela's passion for justice grew stronger, and it was clear that his path would lead him to a lifelong struggle against inequality. Mandela's journey took him to Johannesburg, where he worked as a law clerk and began to study law at the University of Witwatersrand. Here, his passion for fighting injustice deepened as he became more politically active and started seeing the harsh realities of life under apartheid. By now, Mandela was no longer just a student. He was becoming an active participant in the political and social movements shaping South Africa's future. His early life was marked by a strong sense of identity and a deep belief in justice. As Mandela said, "A winner is a dreamer who never gives up." His dream of a free and just South Africa was taking root, and nothing would stop him from pursuing it. In 1944, Mandela joined the African National Congress, ANC, marking the beginning of his formal commitment to the fight against apartheid. The ANC was leading the charge for racial equality in South Africa, and Mandela's passion and leadership would soon make him one of the movement's most prominent voices. At the time, the government had imposed the harsh system of apartheid, a policy that systematically segregated people based on race and kept black South Africans oppressed in nearly every aspect of life. Mandela, alongside other members of the ANC, engaged in peaceful protests and civil disobedience to demand equal rights for black South Africans. His activism gained momentum with the Defiance campaign of the early 1950s, a series of mass protests aimed at challenging the discriminatory laws of the apartheid government. Mandela, as one of the campaign's leaders, was arrested and imprisoned several times during this period, but he never lost hope. In 1956, Mandela was charged with treason, along with several other ANC leaders. Despite the charges, Mandela remained steadfast in his belief that the apartheid regime could not last forever. His commitment to the cause of racial justice became even more determined when, in 1961, the ANC officially adopted a policy of armed resistance, and Mandela became involved in organizing sabotage against government institutions. He knew that peaceful protest alone would no longer be enough to bring about change, so he and his comrades took up the struggle in a new way. But this growing resistance led to Mandela's arrest in 1962, and in 1964 he was sentenced to life imprisonment for his role in organizing the armed resistance. It was a devastating blow to the movement, but also a turning point in Mandela's life and legacy. His imprisonment would not silence the calls for justice. In fact, it would amplify them. While behind bars, Mandela's resolve was unshaken. He spent 27 years in prison, enduring harsh conditions and suffering physical abuse. However, his mind remained sharp, and he continued to engage in political thought and writing. Even in prison, Mandela maintained his role as a key figure in the anti-apartheid movement, communicating with the world and pushing for change. It was said that he became a symbol of the struggle against oppression, inspiring people worldwide to demand the end of apartheid. As he famously said, "It always seems impossible until it's done." His belief in the power of perseverance became the rallying cry for the international movement that ultimately led to his release. Mandela's courage in the face of immense adversity proved that no struggle for justice is ever in vain. In 1990, after decades of global pressure and resistance within South Africa, President F.W. de Klerk made the decision to unban the ANC and release Nelson Mandela from prison. The news of his release was met with jubilant celebrations, both in South Africa and around the world. Mandela had spent 27 long years behind bars, but he emerged not bitter, but instead even more committed to the cause of justice, equality, and reconciliation. Mandela's release from prison marked the beginning of a new era in South African history. He and de Klerk, who had once been bitter adversaries, worked together to negotiate the peaceful transition from apartheid to democracy. Mandela's leadership during this time was crucial. He understood that a future of peace and unity could only be built on forgiveness and reconciliation. Instead of seeking revenge for the suffering of his people, Mandela called for national healing. He famously said, "We must all learn to live together as brothers, or we will all perish together as fools." His ability to forgive his oppressors and focus on the future of a united South Africa made him a global symbol of peace. The years following Mandela's release were filled with political negotiations and discussions. The apartheid government slowly began to cede power, and in 1994, South Africa held its first multiracial elections. Nelson Mandela was elected as the country's first black president. The world watched in awe as the man who had been imprisoned for nearly 3 decades now became the leader of a nation that had once oppressed him. But Mandela's presidency was not about personal gain. It was about creating a nation where equality and justice could prevail. His presidency was marked by efforts to dismantle apartheid's legacy, including the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which sought to address the atrocities committed during apartheid, while promoting healing and reconciliation. Mandela's leadership as president was not just about political achievements, but about moral leadership. He embodied the ideals of compassion, humility, and service to others. As he said, "Lead from the back, and let others believe they are in front." Mandela understood that true leadership was not about wielding power, but about empowering others to rise to their fullest potential. Even after stepping down from the presidency in 1999, Mandela's influence never waned. He continued to use his voice to advocate for peace, global justice, and the eradication of poverty. In particular, Mandela was an outspoken advocate for the fight against HIV/AIDS, a crisis that was ravaging South Africa during his later years. He used his platform to challenge stigma, raise awareness, and mobilize resources for the fight against the disease. Mandela's impact on global politics and social movements was immense. He traveled the world, spreading his message of peace, unity, and social justice. he inspired countless individuals to challenge injustice in their own countries, whether they were fighting for civil rights, freedom, or equality. His example showed the world that a single individual could make a difference, and that no cause is too great to be overcome. As Mandela entered his later years, his health began to decline, but his commitment to serving his people never faltered. His death on December 5, 2013, was met with an outpouring of grief from people around the world. But his legacy lives on, not just through the policies and changes he helped create in South Africa, but through the lessons he taught us all about the power of forgiveness, resilience, and hope. Mandela's legacy is a gift to the world. His life proves that it is possible to rise above hatred, to transcend injustice, and to lead with humility and compassion. As he once said, "I am not a saint unless you think of a saint as a sinner who keeps on trying." His life was not about being perfect, it was about doing the best one could in the face of overwhelming odds. There are countless lessons we can take from Nelson Mandela's life. His unwavering determination to fight for justice, even in the most challenging circumstances, shows us that change is possible. His ability to forgive those who wronged him teaches us that holding on to bitterness only perpetuates suffering. Mandela's ability to look beyond race and class to build a united South Africa reminds us that we are all part of a global community, and that unity is always stronger than division. Above all, Mandela's life teaches us that the struggle for justice and equality is ongoing. As he once said, "I never lose, I either win or learn." His belief in the power of perseverance and learning from our mistakes is a message that resonates with us all, no matter where we come from or what we are fighting for. Thank you for watching today's video on the extraordinary life of Nelson Mandela. His journey from prisoner to president, from oppression to freedom, is a beacon of hope for the world. If you were inspired by his story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Epic Quotes for more powerful stories and life lessons. And always remember, as Mandela once said, it always seems impossible until it's done. No matter what obstacles you face, keep pushing forward, for you too can make a difference. Until next time, stay inspired and keep striving for a better world.